We will.
Yes.
We're going to pioneer it.
Yes.
Right. Sounds good. All right. How's it going, Isha?
Very good. How are you, Josiah?
Pretty exhausted. Busy.
Because you're moving?
No. I'm going to hire movers to do that. I'm lazy. just from working a lot. But yeah. All right. So first, you need to tell us a little bit about yourself. So who really is Isha?
Who really is Isha?
Give us your life story in 3 minutes.
Okay. So Isha, I'm from a small city. Actually, it's not a small city. The northernmost city in North America with over 1 million people. It's called Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And there I did an undergrad degree in cell molecular biology, and then I did a master's in biotech in Toronto after that. But while I was still doing my undergrad...
Wait. So were you born and raised in Edmonton?
I was born in Saskatoon, which is more in the center of Canada.
All right.
It's the rectangle province. Anyway, so I was... So anyway, in my fourth year of my undergrad, I was becoming disillusioned with what my options were as a biology student. It seemed like it was medical stuff or lab stuff or nothing. And I worked in a few clinics and stuff like that because my dad was a doctor, so that was, an easy thing to do in summers when you're in high school and that kind of thing. But I just thought it was just not my thing. I didn't like it didn't feel like you were impacting like a ton of people, which maybe sounds weird. But anyway.
In medicine, are you saying?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't, at least my dad, he's a GP and all of his stuff is like end of life care. So.
Oh, geez. Oh,
okay. That's it's just like so hard. And then also how could you not feel like just kind of hopeless about things?
My grandfather died, and it was this huge controversy. I was trying to get the medical system to stop.
Yeah, it's insane. It's also like so political, and it's actually not really just about taking care of patients. It's all this other stuff on top of it, which is so complicated in a way that prevents you from doing what you're trying to do, I guess. So anyway, I also in Edmonton, which is a very cold place, I would bike to school, which is kind of unheard of in that place. Like I would bike through a farm to get to school, and I didn't live in the rural area. There was just a farm in the middle of the city. So I did this meat science course because I really loved eating meat, and Alberta is a big meat producing. So I took a meat science course.
Oh, for real? Your school had a meat science course?
That's awesome.
Yeah, in our agriculture department.
I would take a meat science course.
Why wouldn't there be a meat science course if you have an ag department? It seems like, at least one course per food group.
Yeah. Where I went to undergrad, they also had ag department, but I think it was more focused on like plant agriculture. I don't know if they actually had courses like that, but maybe they did. Yeah.
I'm sure they, well, I guess it depends where you did your school, but Alberta's a huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's in the Midwest, then it must.
Like farmland. Yeah.
Yeah. Because where I was, it was a huge beef producing place. And anyway, so my prof was this Italian guy who was very, very future forward guy, like way more than any of my like genetics or biochem or whatever profs. And so he would talk about what the future of meat was. And he introduced me to the idea of growing meat in cell culture. And it had never ever crossed my mind. And in the class, I also learned about how detrimental animal agriculture was. I had never thought about it as something that was like just terrible for the earth and public health and all that kind of thing. So this seemed like just the most obvious, this is an amazing idea. And because I found this course because I saw a poster on the wall, I was the only person in there from the science faculty instead of ag. Because the other people in the class were from like animal science or nutrition or other really ag-focused things. So I was actually prepared to look at medical research in tissue engineering and apply that to growing meat. And so I wrote a big paper about it. I sent it to the guy who is the founder of New Harvest. His name is Jason Matheny. He runs IARPA now. And I'm just like, I wrote this paper. What do you think about it? IARPA is DARPA, but intelligence.
Oh, really? Weird.
Yeah.
So he went
Yeah.
from the CEO of New Harvest to running the intelligence.
No, but he was CEO of New Harvest was like, he created it and it was like a hobby activity that he had created for himself. Like he never did it full time.
Oh, so otherwise he was like a secret CIA agent who
I can't tell you any further details about what he was because I don't know. But
well, you're just not gonna tell us.
Great story.
No, I really don't know. I really don't know. But I would meet him I'd meet him and I'd be like, "Where were you?" And he's like, "Oh, I was just at the big genome center in China or whatever." His whole expertise is around global catastrophic risk. So, but anyway, that's a tangent. So I sent him my paper, and I was like, "Oh, I wrote this paper in class. What do you think?" And then he forwarded it to like half the researchers that I had cited in my paper. And as an undergrad, I was like, so not only did I love the subject matter, I loved how inclusive of a community it was, because academia can really not feel like that. And, people will ask you how old you are, what school you went to, and what lab you worked in before they look at anything that you've like written. Yeah. So it was really impressive that not only did he connect me to these researchers, but they started reviewing my paper and like offering suggestions for things I should look into and things that I should account for that I had missed. And I was really, really impressed by that. And then on the side, Jason said, "When are you going to publish this?" I said, "You realize that I'm just an undergrad and this was like a class assignment." And they're like, "Oh, we had no idea." So that was kind of a boost. So I actually...
Funny because I've experienced this also. It's when like scientists interact with people outside the academic world, outside the hardcore science world. Like, people are so nice.
Yeah.
They really appreciate you, and they're really nice to you. It's so funny because in the academic world, a lot of people be like, "Oh, who is this sending me this paper? Like, I don't give a shit. What are you doing? Who are you?"
Yeah, I guess maybe people like the idea that you like the work that you do or that you have done.
They're just like, "Whoa, cool. Good job."
Yeah, it was really welcoming.
I think everyone gets tired of going to Thanksgiving after Thanksgiving and no one of the public understands you.
Pardon? Sorry, I missed it. The volume's like all weird.
I think people get tired of going to like hundreds of Thanksgivings and not one person knows what they do or understands. So I think people excited. Like,
yeah, I think so. So anyway, they told me I should publish, so I went back to my prof, and I was like, "Oh, these internet people think I should publish this like class assignment." And he was like, "Great idea. You can be my grad student next year, and we'll work on this." And I was like, "Well, I mean," I was like, "the paper's written. Why would I be?"
Oh man, so he totally tried to scam you. He tried to scam your work.
Well, I mean, I think he actually wanted me to physically work on it, so I don't think it would have been that exact paper. But I've worked in the lab before. It's not really my scene. I'm not good at it. So I was kind of like, the paper's written. It's just a review. I don't that's how I'm going to contribute. And so I went and worked somewhere else for a while and then got the paper published, which was great. And then I decided I was going to pursue, making this cultured meat thing happen. But it was really...
Why did you want to make this cultured meat thing happen? Was that just like where you felt like you were an expert in now, where you thought you had the most to contribute, or like what really inspired that move?
What inspired it was a love of meat and a guilt associated with it that was, just, immediately you're thinking, okay, we'll just not eat any animal products, but that is so not possible.
Yeah.
That's been a message for literally thousands of years, and we haven't seen like enough people take that, make that into their lifestyle for it to affect anything. And we've only seen our dependence on animal products grow. So even if I stopped eating meat, great, that's one person, but it doesn't affect anybody. So
no, it's super cool because I used to think about that. I remember in graduate school, I recycle and stuff like that, but I always had for like, oh yeah, recycling, like if everybody does their part, we're going to save the world or something.
Right.
And I was like, well, if instead of recycling, people just figured out how to solve the problem of all the plastic waste, if they spent that time doing that, maybe it would be way more productive. And it sounds like you went the same route. Instead of being like, whoa, how can I just give up all meat in my life? Like, how can I actually fix the problem instead of just not eating a chicken leg here and there?
Right. And like I recycle, I do my part too. I think it's still valid to care enough for one person to do something. If not because that one person's actions are meaningful, just because it just perpetuates the fact that you care about it. Yeah. But yeah, that's what drove me to it. And then the fact that I thought it was such a cool idea. And then the second fact that it felt so community oriented, and there were people willing to just listen to some undergrad paper and talk about it and like think critically about it. That was a big part of it too, because I'm a community bigger, and there being no boundaries as to how you can participate.
Yeah.
So that was when I sent the paper and got that feedback. That was the thing that really drew me in, because there are a lot of cool ideas out there, but that was the one that made me feel like I'm part of it.
And it speaks a lot about too, like just being kind of inclusive and accepting of people. And I think that's really strong with like biohackers, right? It's kind of like the definition of the biohacking movement. It's like, let's take people who don't know science, help them learn science, so then they could, accomplish their dreams, or just accept them into the fold, even if they sound a little crazy. And let me tell you, there's a lot of people who sound crazy.
Yes, in my world too, but
I'm sure you get that also. What's the craziest story? What's the craziest story you have? Do you have a crazy story about somebody that did something? Sent you an email? What's the craziest email or comment you've seen? Have any good ones?
Well, we get actually fairly common are the comments about growing one's own meat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because then you can consent to your own meat. Like, it's the only meat that you can consent to. Well, I guess you could grow someone else's consented meat.
It's super weird, really? So
yeah,
like vegan, there are like groups of people like vegans and vegetarians who want to grow their own meat so they could consent to its eating.
I don't know if this is groups. These are like, I don't know if these people that have emailed me have found one another.
They want to like
Pardon?
I said they want to like be cannibalists.
I guess it is kind of like that. But I mean, I bite my nails.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess that's the more generalized weird thing. There's probably like more specific. Sometimes you just get emails that are weird in just the way they're written. Like the entire email is the subject heading and there's nothing in the actual body. That kind of stuff.
I'm really one of those.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, stuff like that. But
I gotten some stuff about aliens. The aliens ones are like always my favorite. Somehow they relate things I do to aliens, the ODIN or something. And you're like, all right, right on. I guess so. Cool.
How do they relate you to aliens?
Yeah.
Because like aliens are the superior genetic species or something like that, right? Or aliens are the ones that planted us on Earth through panspermia, right? So like as we engineer ourselves, we're becoming closer to aliens and or we're directed by aliens. We're making our DNA more alien-like. Lots of crazy stuff like that. I mean, I can't believe to understand it all, but for sure. All right.
I get a lot of people who ask about, is this natural? Is this GMO kind of stuff? But they're, and then when I send my response back, it tends to be like satisfying to them.
Yeah. So, like, one question I guess I had is, like, what do you say to some of these, like, crazy people? Or, I'm not saying, I guess I shouldn't say they're crazy, or should I say they're crazy?
No, I don't think you should say they're crazy. I think everyone should always be asking questions about everything, but then you should be open to the answers to those questions.
Like, we have to understand that. Like, people think we're crazy for doing biohacking stuff and for making meat.
That's true. That's true a little bit. Some people think biohackers are crazy. But when it starts to get a little bit out there, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So how did you end up at New Harvest?
Oh, yeah. So then I decided to do this Master's of Biotech degree in Canada, which I tell people about here in the States, and they're like, that would only exist in Canada. It was like an MBA, but you did some lab work, and then you did a big internship, but then, like, you got paid in your internship, so the net result was it was free, which was cool, because at the end of it, you had not only a master's degree, but a year of
really?
experience. Yeah, and it was like net zero. So I had actually many complaints about my degree and wrote to them and all that kind of stuff, but in the end, it was still pretty good.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wait, did you wrote to the university and complained?
Someone's got to do it. It's not complaint awesome. Like I thought it was bad. It was like complaints like, this could be way better. It's not complaint, it's feedback, I guess, is a better way of calling it something.
Yeah, no, that's pretty awesome. Yeah. Not to relate you to my grandma at all, but my grandma used to write letters to everybody.
I wrote a letter to Walgreens a couple weeks ago.
Oh my gosh. And I just want to say, that sounds like my grandma, even though, I don't mean in a bad way.
No, I think that I like grandmas. They're inspiring. I wrote a letter to Walgreens because I got my flu vaccine there.
Uh-huh.
And the Band-Aid had like the Walgreens logo on it, really huge. And I wrote them saying, you should change your Band-Aids to have like #vaccinated on it, so that people would share that they were vaccinated, and then be more people would want to get a flu vaccine.
Oh, wow. So you were actually trying to help Walgreens out. You weren't just like hating on them or something.
I was kind of hating on them because I was going to take a photo of my vaccine and say I got vaccinated, but it was the Walgreens logo there, and I didn't want to seem like I was a big Walgreens like person. So I wanted to help Walgreens without appearing as if I was helping Walgreens.
All right, back to the internship.
Right. So I worked at GlaxoSmithKline for a year in their public policy department, which was cool because it was the department that interacted with nonprofit organizations. So you got to understand this relationship that huge pharma companies have with nonprofits, and also with academia, and how like the funding kind of moves around, and how you have three groups that kind of all want the same thing, but they can all speak to different people with different voices. So for example, the nonprofit group is a very strong voice for government because it represents patients and it represents people who want access to medicines. And then academia does all the really expensive research that is funded by nonprofits, which is kind of pooled in from various big companies. So you get to do all this really expensive work that is a little, much riskier than doing work in-house, but can be exploratory and end up being useful. I don't know a ton about how well all that kind of advocacy group funding is spent, because it doesn't seem to be spent in a very effective way to me, per dollar. But it's an interesting relationship, and it's something that's inspired what I've done at New Harvest a little bit, because we're a nonprofit trying to establish an industry where there is no academic foundation and there is no industry. Yeah.
Cool. So then after Glaxo.
Oh yeah. So then after that, I was kind of stuck because even though I decided I was going to do this ag thing and I went to this biotech master's, it was still stuck in like pharma world, and all the internship opportunities were pharma stuff. And I kind of like, did my thing for a few months, and then by month 3, I was like planning my escape, and it was 12-month thing. And I don't know, I kind of like looked at our like VP and I was like, I don't even want to be that guy. I don't even want to have that guy's job. It doesn't seem any better than my job here. I still have to come here every day. I still have to like sit on my computer and like use the like system or whatever. It's not fun.
So do you see yourself as kind of anti-authoritarian or like punk in any way?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes. But on the same thing, I respect authority and I respect expertise a lot. So it's not totally like anarchy. It's I respect it, but I don't, and I think anyone can be an authority, and that is independent of age and stuff. But you still need to put in your time and like think about things, put in the hours to learn stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so after that, there was this TEDx Toronto thing coming up in Toronto, and so I applied to do a talk on cultured meat. And then Andrew Hessel, who you probably know.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's getting all. Yeah, Andrew called me one day and he was like, "There's this company called Modern Meadow. They're making cultured meat, and I think you should, consider joining them or something like that, since you're the only person who's like written about it in the last 10 years." And so I said, "That's cool, Andrew, but I have to like finish this internship, otherwise I won't graduate and stuff like that. But what else is going on?" And then Andrew asked me what else was going on, and I said I applied for this TEDx. He's like, "Which TEDx?" I said, "Toronto." He's like, "Oh, great. They asked me to do one, but I can't, so I'll just let you do mine instead." So I got like this into this big event, and the TEDx Toronto is like it's a pretty huge TEDx. I think it's like the 4th biggest one or whatever. Like it's pretty significant. So I got into that, which is amazing. And simultaneously, my prof, the Italian guy, suggested that I should apply for to become the director of New Harvest, because they were looking for someone to run it. But I always thought, I know nothing about nonprofits. I'm in no way qualified to do this. But the job description had been up for like a year, so I said, okay, fine. I'm actually more qualified than anyone else. So I applied for that. I applied for TEDx, and they were like, both parties thinking about it. And I told both parties that I had the other thing when I had, in fact, nothing.
Oh.
So I kind of played my, that was a risk-taking thing. But in the end, it all worked out. And in the end, I flew to DC to meet Jason for an interview. And my TEDx talk went up live that morning. So he saw my talk, and then we had the interview, and then I got the job. So everything all worked out very perfect.
Are you in any way affiliated with the CIA?
No, I'm not. I'm Canadian.
Are you just saying that?
Well, I don't know if Canadians could be affiliated with the CIA in any way.
Can't you be like a CIA?
Lots of people who are CIA people might say they're Canadians. Just
it's a common cover.
Exactly. It might be a cover.
No, I have nothing to do with the CIA.
Yeah.
If I did, I think we would be in a better position with respect to cultured meat.
You'd be like overthrowing some governments to install cultured meat.
Yeah, we have like lobbying activity.
Oh. So now that you've been CEO of New Harvest for how long?
Since January 2013.
Oh, wow, that long.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. And how has it been?
It's been great. The first year, it was like building something out of like little bits of like ashes, basically. And the first thing I set out to do was like form that community and bring those people together again, because they were all over the world. They're just scattered about and they don't know where each other are and what each other does or anything like that. So the first thing was kind of being a focal point for a group of people. And then on one hand, that's a lot of like activists who want to see animal agriculture end, but on the other hand of it, it's like the actual people that are going to be doing the work. There's some overlap. I mean, there's lots of overlap, but they're kind of two different categories, I guess. And then the second year, it was like, okay, now we need to put this community into action. And the first thing we did was start Moofree, which is that company making milk without cows. And Moofree was like, Pantea messaged me one day. She's like, there's this incubator, they're looking for applicants. Do you know any companies? I was like, no, but well, I'll just make one. So like, I contacted these two guys who had never met each other, but both independently told me they wanted to make milk using fermentation. The only people who had ever mentioned that to me before, I had never even thought of it. And so I just emailed them both at the same time and said, there's this opportunity. We have to put together a whole proposal in 5 days with like a video and everything. Do you want to work together? Do you want to work separately? I don't care what you do, but anyway, you can do this if you want. And if you want, I'll help. And New Harvest can help and like, you know, get this going. And so they emailed back. They're like, we'll just all work together since we all have the same goal. And we were just like Skyping for 4 days straight and finished our big proposal and ended up getting 30 grand to work on this in Ireland, which was cool because we had never really seen any money injected into this thing ever before. And New Harvest was definitely in no position. We didn't have any money at that point. I mean, we didn't really start making money until like last year. So it was cool to see money put towards real research instead of just like me going, you know, traveling around talking to people. And it was cool. It was also cool because Cork turned out to be the place where dairy science textbooks are written. So the people who were like serious dairy experts who understand like casein proteins inside and out happened to be in the exact same city that Moofree was getting.
For real?
Yeah. So you were having these Moofree, you know, like new milk conversations with the people who are like so about milk right from day one.
They're super psyched about milk. They're like,
well, they were psyched, but then you're like, now we have this completely different system when there's no cow involved. And it was really wild because in Ireland, dairy is a huge, huge thing. And the dairy in Ireland is also really amazing and delicious. And, you know, Ireland is all grass, so it's not factory farmed or anything either. So you're talking about something that was kind of not relevant in Ireland compared to the States. And, you know, that caused a lot of interesting conversations, but nothing hostile at all.
So do you run into that a lot? Because it seems like there are a lot of people who would be like for what New Harvest does, but say like against GMOs or like for like against factory farming, right? For cellular agriculture, but then against like engineering plants.
Yeah. What I found through New Harvest is that there is no like standard person. There's no like standard profile for someone who would be interested in New Harvest at all. In like beliefs, age, location, gender, anything.
You just get like the whole assortment of different people.
Yeah. There's a guy who posted on our wall. He was like, his Facebook profile picture is like Donald Trump, like says vote for Trump. And he was like, I love what you're doing. All those libs don't want to see one. It's a really weird comment that I can't even remember because I don't speak that language, but it was just evidence that, you know, it cuts across so many different boundaries, which is awesome because there's so few places on the internet that are like that.
Yeah, no, that is super interesting. Where you have like the people you probably find at Greenpeace, like chatting with somebody who wants to vote for Donald Trump, and they're like, you know, agreeing on stuff.
Yeah, it's wild. And you have people who are like meat eaters and vegans and everything all mashed together.
Yeah, how does that work? It seems like it would be like this whole thing, especially like Facebook group and the whole New Harvest thing in general is kind of like a recipe for an explosion, right? You have all these people who have
What do you mean,
adverse
though?
opinions, right? You have like the vegans, you
Mhm.
have the meat eaters, you have the anti-GMO people, you have the pro-GMO people, you have all these people who are coming together. Do you get like lots of fights breaking out and stuff?
No, and I think the reason why is that the fights break out on the fringes of people agreeing. So you'll see. So for example, through New Harvest, I've joined like some vegan Facebook groups, and I noticed that the biggest arguments are about things that a non-vegan would never think about.
Oh, really?
Like total stuff that so for example, a kind of cultured meat thing is that some people might think you're just perpetuating the idea of using animals and using tissue, and like this is another way of consuming life, and like whatever. I don't think about that, because in a utilitarian sense, it's so, even if that is true, it's still so much better than the existing system.
So I have a question, and this might be a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody actually done like the calculations and stuff and shown if actually producing meat in culture would be better for the environment than just raising cows or something? Let's just use cows for an example, and slaughtering them.
Yeah, people have done the calculations, but the relevance of them at this stage is
Yeah, kind of, because there's nothing
to measure. It's all like very, very speculative, and it's nice because you can make a point about things and like put it in your slides or talk about it with a journalist. But on the other hand, that could change as soon as you do.
Yeah, well,
have one scale experiment, it could be totally different numbers.
Yeah.
And so in a way it maybe could make for a complicated.
For me, I would almost be like, is it really, like, how much better is it really for the, I mean, like, I get the whole like killing life thing, and I don't think there's really many people who, if you said, look, we made cultured meat versus real meat and it was the same price and tasted approximately the same, they would choose to eat the real meat. I mean, maybe eventually you'll get like real meat purists, there'll be like people who run around and are like, only real meat.
Yeah.
And then they'll fight with people who, no, I'm just joking.
Who only like hunt or something.
But besides that, like, so cell culture, right? It requires a lot of things. It requires, constantly changing media. It requires fermentation reactors and like bioreactors and like changing the liquid, and requires liquid. It requires CO2. It requires a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a lot less energy. I mean, because you imagine like right now, it shouldn't be better for the environment, just like how much energy goes into producing, say, 1 gram of beef versus like raising a cow. Is it still, even right now with current technology, better for the environment?
Right now it's not better. Current technology, not better. There's like, we have to have a very directed, concerted effort towards making those things better, because all the tissue engineering stuff has no pressure to do things sustainably or cost effectively, or maybe a little bit cost effectively, but not like that cost effectively.
Xavier asks, does the process of growing tissue produce methane like cows do?
No, it won't, because the methane comes from cows' guts, and there won't be any gut. There won't be any stomachs or any of that kind of stuff. That's the other thing is, okay, you think a cow eating grass turning into meat is like an efficient process, but a cow doesn't really start putting on meat until like 18 months or something like that. So for the first 18 months, you're just feeding this thing that is growing all these systems that you don't really want, like a nervous system, skeletal system, all the stuff that you don't really want in the end. So aren't we abbreviating that whole process by just growing the product that we want? And for example, that meatball that was tasted recently, it took like, I don't know, a few weeks or months to grow it. But I realize that it's just a meatball, but if you wanted a meatball from a cow, it would have been at least, 18 months before you could get a meatball from a cow.
That's almost a reasonable argument.
And the other thing is that, and this is not just about cows anymore, but we use 70% of all agricultural land to raise animals on this planet, which is absolutely ridiculous because we're growing more food to feed animals to become less food than we are growing food for people. So it's a really inefficient way to be using calories. And if we develop systems to produce cultured meat where the media is derived from like algae and stuff like that, algae doesn't need to really compete with farmland. It doesn't need to compete with the Amazon forest like soybean production does now. So, and you can grow it, in urban environments and stuff like that. So what it does is just present a whole bunch of different options that we don't have with farming animals right now.
Do you consider yourself kind of like a futurist type person? Sci-fi-ish, maybe?
What does futurist person mean? I consider myself now person because I'm tired of talking about the future of this. No, this is like cultured meat can happen right now if we think about it as a now thing instead of a future thing.
Well, sure, but like now means, maybe in a year or 2 years or 5 years, right? Not like tomorrow, because even just to culture the cells, it'll take at least a couple weeks. So even if we, drop $1 billion on it tonight, it's still going to take a few weeks, right?
Right, but the point is dropping the $1 billion tonight.
I know, but what I'm saying is like, so you're kind of like, you think about a possible scenario in the future where people are living off of cultured meat, yeah?
Yes.
So, like, do you think about anything else in the future? Like, when Isha imagines herself 10 years from now, how does she picture this future she lives in? Like let's say you're just walking down the sidewalk, maybe going to a restaurant. What do you see? Yes. What's on the menu? What do you see on the street? Like, give us a synopsis of what future Isha wants to see.
Great. So in my future, most people are walking. I'm like anti-car kind of person. and that's just because I think it's so much more sustainable to build a city that has everything you need around you instead of having to commute all over the place. It's inhumane to have to commute hours back and forth. Anyway, so I'm in a city and the food production happens right in the same city that I live in, that I could walk to the place where food is grown. But the place I'm walking to is probably a huge office tower because people don't work in offices anymore. They work at home or wherever they want to work. And so you're in this kind of vertical building, and on the maybe on the outside in tubes, you have like algae growing in tubes, so the whole surface area is covered in like some like green stuff. And then inside, people are culturing various products, animal products, fermented, beer stuff, whatever, anything. You can grow anything, really, in culture. But I don't think plants really make a lot of sense because they're already pretty effective to grow on their own. It's more the animal products that I think we should be using fermentation and tissue culturing for.
Yep. All right, so you walk past that building, going to a restaurant, going someplace, going out with your friends.
Yeah, we can go to a restaurant, and then the leather is like cultured ostrich leather banquettes. And you order like the house whatever animal co-culture thing they're growing or whatever. Maybe they're growing like multiple different types of cell types together or something like that. I don't know.
Ooh, the restaurant itself, so it's like a home brewer?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
You can order the house wine or the house flesh. Or the house brew, whatever. So and the place is called Brew.
It's called Brew. You can brew up. So we brew up wine, beer, and flesh.
Yes. Milk.
That's crazy. All right. So you get like some nice pork belly. It's all been cultured.
Mm-hmm.
Eat it. Tastes just like regular pork belly.
No, I don't think it would taste the same. It would taste like some version of pork, something that we could actually can't imagine today.
You think so? You don't think we'll be able to get it to where it's like...
No, I think we could get it to it being the same, but by then we're bored of that, and now we're like, what can we do with it that we couldn't have done before?
Oh, yeah, no, I've always wondered that. Like, right? So, like, say fish. You know, you go out for sushi and you have all these different fishes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their muscle proteins are all the same, right? Their blood is basically the same.
Mm-hmm.
Their cells are, you know, pretty similar. So, like, what gives such distinct flavor between all the different types of meat or, you know, fish or whatever when, like, the proteins are the same and, like...
Well, I don't think the muscle fibers aren't the same, and also what they're eating is not the same.
So maybe like what they're eating contributes to the different ions and electrolytes and different things like that and gives it flavor. No, I know the muscle fiber, I guess the patterns of the muscle fibers that grow, but like the proteins are the same, right? I guess they're slightly different in different organisms.
But it'll be like different amounts.
Different amounts. That's true.
And different amounts of like myoglobin and that kind of thing. And then also just the structure of those muscles depending on how much they're used or not used.
Yeah. I guess, do you think that gives a lot to flavor, the structure, or is it more texture thing? Maybe both?
I think it's both. Like, think about red meat and white meat and how different they are.
To me, I've never really, I mean, some people can really do red meat, white. Oh yeah, red meat and white meat, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of more like dark meat and white meat.
I'm sorry, dark meat. I meant dark meat and white meat.
Oh, you meant dark. Yeah, no, like, yeah, I don't really notice much difference.
No,
red meat and white meat, I can notice.
It's very different. It's like, you know, first of all, it's darker, and I think there's more like myoglobin stuff in it.
Yeah, more like.
And it's a different type of twitch. It's like slow twitch and fast twitch muscle fibers. I can't remember. I did that. I learned it in this meat science course, but that was a while ago now.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. Yeah, no.
But I like drawing this parallel to biotech to transform milk into cheese, because you could have never looked at milk and thought about cheese without turning it into cheese first. You could have never been like, I want a slice of this like hardened version of that thing, but it's like yellower, has like big holes in it, and is like stinky and like stretches and stuff. You could have never thought of that.
So do you think that's the future, like making lots of strange products that are kind of like meat cheese or something?
Why not? I really like the idea of food being exploratory and interesting and like different, because all we have for new food these days is this food from another place on the planet. And we're already like so globalized that we're, you know, that's the end of that is very near.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, no, it's super interesting in the way that, like, are there flavors out there that we've never tasted? Right? Is there a flavor that we can create that we've never tasted yet? Or is there like...
I think so.
Is there like an aroma that we've never smelled yet?
I mean, all the amazing flavors we have. I think so. Because, okay, fermentation, we started making like soy sauce and all that umami stuff. And that was almost like having a new flavor. Because before you could only get umami flavors from meat. And since fermentation, you can get it from soy and other fermented stuff. Molds and funguses and things like that. So I don't know, maybe there is no more flavor left, but there very well could be. We haven't really developed any new foods for like 2,000 years.
Huh. Have we not?
Actually, I don't know. I don't know about 2,000 years.
No, I mean...
It's been a long time.
Yeah, are there really any new... I mean, I guess you find a new animal and you're kind of like, let's eat it and see what happens, right?
But we don't even do that. We don't even eat new animals.
New vegetables? Maybe?
I guess people, yeah. There are people who like fruit into
I think just things maybe become more popular, right? Everybody's always eating everything. But certain things become more trendy and
right.
start eating them more.
There are also things we could eat that there's nothing interesting about eating them.
Yeah, no flavor, like algae or something.
Yeah, it's like crappy. Yeah. I think algae probably could. I don't know. I don't eat algae.
Kelp, leaves.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff we could eat. We just don't.
I guess
There's supposed to be some dulse that tastes just like bacon, but none of the dulse smells like bacon.
Some what that tastes like bacon?
This dulse seaweed.
Dulse.
Oh, really? There's a seaweed that tastes like
I haven't tasted that either.
What do you think about that? The like cricket flour, like cricket bread.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the insect thing is kind of interesting because yes, that is a way that we could get our protein, but I just don't see us replacing the existing protein we're eating with crickets. I only see us like complementing with crickets.
So you don't think, so a lot of these companies now, right, because using synthetic biology is difficult to make proteins, a lot of these companies that are coming up, what was that one, like Hampton Creek?
Oh, Hampton Creek Foods, yeah.
Hampton Creek and New Wave, they're like not using necessarily cellular agriculture as much as just using like plants or even like Impossible Foods. Do you think that's more viable right now?
Yes. That's why they're doing it right now. I mean, and that's why they have like products that you can taste and everything and buy. What they're doing is like formulating stuff and marketing it in a different way. Because I think originally the people who would be formulating those products would sell them to a very niche group of like vegans. Whereas now you're formulating them and talking about all this sustainability stuff, which can appeal to everybody now. But really, there's nothing new about vegan mayonnaise, and there's nothing new about vegan shrimp either.
Yeah, veganese.
Yeah.
And we've all had imitation crab or something.
Well, imitation crab is fish.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's just a difference. It's pollock. But like Taiwan, like all that Asian stuff, like they've been making meat alternatives for thousands of years. So a lot
really?
of
like what?
Oh, like mock duck and shrimps, and there's one shaped in lobster shapes and stuff because of Buddhism. Buddhism was like the original vegetarianism. So seitan was invented like really, really long time ago. So they've been working on this stuff for so long.
So gross?
Seitan, yeah, I like, no, the worst is tempeh.
Tempeh.
But there are some that are really good that I like.
When they're like extremely seasoned and spiced.
Yeah, but I like everything extremely seasoned and spiced. So it's all fine. But yeah, I find the alternatives from Asia to be a lot more exciting than the ones here because I guess maybe I've never been interested in eating like chicken breast strips.
All right, so now we're gonna get onto the top 10 things Isha hates. All right.
Oh, 10 things?
I don't know if it's 10. I'm just kind of throwing that number out there and we'll see where it goes. So company I guess it could be in your space, like who's making artificial meats. Number one company Isha wants to hate on.
No, I don't want to hate on anyone making artificial meats.
All right, no company. All right, company.
What I will hate on is how the media portrays cultured meat, because they portray it like it exists right now, or that it's like there's no need, that there's like scientists all around the world currently working on this that are like very well funded. They're like tinkering away, That is not happening. And the question they always ask is, how many years away is it? And I was like, it's not like that. It's like man hours, funded man hours, and then we can talk about how many years away it is. But just sitting here and waiting for 10 years, nothing's going to happen. And it's now come to the point where there are people who said it will be here in 5 years, 5 years ago. Like it's already.
It's already becoming that field.
Yeah, it's already expired itself. So that is one thing I can't handle, and it's very hard to. And I guess one thing I do hate is anyone who perpetuates that media story, because I guess I don't know if it's people who are being interviewed who continue saying these things, or if it's just the media just spins it that way because that's how they need to report. But lately I've been seeing through the people we've been talking to and me strictly saying you should do this and you should do that, I guess. It's been getting better. I also don't like the Franken food thing because it's just so childish.
Oh, yeah.
People call anything Franken food. Like they'll call like sour gummy candies Franken food. Like there's no boundary for, is it GMO, is it not GMO, is it like involve science, does not involve science. It's just nothing.
All right. Number one person Isha hates.
That's rude.
Why? You don't have like a nemesis or maybe just somebody in general that you kind of hate? I kind of don't like who can I think of? I mean, lots of people who run big tech companies. Maybe Richard Branson. He seems kind of weird. Elon Musk, he's got like moobs. You ever seen his moobs?
That's no reason to hate someone.
Really? I think there's like
that's no reason to hate someone.
All right.
I don't like. Oh, I hate the food babe.
Oh, the food babe. All right, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. The food babe. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, that's easy.
All right. Number one food Isha hates. What food?
Tempeh.
Oh, tempeh, really? That's it? Like, you just don't like tempeh that much. That like if you just worked out, went 12 hours without eating, and somebody set tempeh down in front of you, you'd be like, probably not. No, I'm not going to eat it.
More than any other thing, yeah.
Really? Wow.
Well, what am I supposed to say as some non-food item?
No.
In that scenario, I'd probably eat most things.
You really think so?
What's your least favorite?
Chinese broccoli that's cold.
Oh, I love Chinese. I made Chinese broccoli yesterday.
It's just like the stem, like Chinese broccoli, like just the stem, and it's like.
Oh yeah, like Dala.
Micah knows what I'm talking about. Right? Chinese broccoli, when you get it, and it's just like the stem. There's like no
leafy stuff.
Yeah, no floret on it, and it's cold, and it's just like seriously, it's like eating a tree. It's like the hardest thing I've had to do at some point.
Tempeh tastes like eating a tree too, but like
also
eating
bitter
like
melon. Have you ever had bitter melon?
Oh yeah.
I can like have like 2 bites of that, and then I'm just like, oh, I don't know if I could eat anymore. Oh my god.
How did you cook it? I think that depends how you cook it.
I got it at a restaurant. I don't know.
My mom makes it. It's pretty good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I don't know what she must do something special.
Cover it in spices and salt and everything until it drowns out the flavor. See,
but the thing about tempeh is when you cover it in all that stuff, still nothing happens.
So what is it? Is it the flavor?
It's the texture.
Oh, the texture you don't like?
Yeah.
All right. Texture.
It's like crumbly, but not crumbly enough.
Crumbly, but not crumbly enough.
Like you might as well just be full crumbliness.
Like what?
Like a.
What's full crumbly? Cracker?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right. What's all right? Now we'll switch it. What's your favorite food?
My favorite food. I don't know.
You don't know? I mean, how about one of your favorite foods then? Like, say you're at home, it's Friday night, you got nothing going on, and you're just like, I'm going to order something and chill. What's your go-to?
Oh, and I never, actually, that's something I hate. I never ever I never get takeout. I'm anti-takeout.
All right.
I never ever take out food. I only eat in a restaurant, or I only eat at home. I only will ever sit in the restaurant.
All right. So you're going to go to a restaurant on a Friday night and relax. What are you going to go get?
No, that's not a good question because you're limited to whatever restaurant is near you.
Oh my gosh,
so if I'm going to relax, I usually make this instant soup that we have, and the main ingredients are MSG and then something that's like MSG. It's called like disodium inositate or something.
Inositol.
It's really, really good. Inositol, yeah. It's really good.
What is your birthday
Maybe that's
meal?
my favorite food.
All right,
MSG is my
here's what
favorite
Micah
food.
says. Micah says, what is your birthday meal?
My birthday meal.
Yeah.
Breast milk. On the day I was born.
No, I mean like really, like now, like it's your birthday, you're going out, or somebody's cooking you food. What's your birthday meal?
Yeah, my birthday meal is probably dim sum.
Dim sum. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that. I can do that.
Yeah, that in fact is my birthday thing that I do.
All right. Who's Isha's favorite person?
My favorite person is my husband, Jared.
All right. That was a great answer. What's your favorite company?
My favorite company is New Harvest.
Besides New Harvest or any of the New Harvest?
And nothing affiliated with New Harvest. Good question. What's your favorite company? While I think about what
I'll probably say I really like Oculus Rift. The Oculus Rift is one of the coolest things ever. And it was kind of started by a hacker, Palmer Luckey. Now I guess they're part of Facebook. I don't know if they're still their own separate company. But I really like how it went from just something some guy hacked together to like a really big company.
The thing is, I actually don't really like things that scale. I like the idea of small stuff. Here. Pardon?
I said you're blowing my mind here.
Yeah, like my favorite restaurants are like one-off restaurants that are just like a family that just cares about what they do, and that's all they want to do is just.
Did they call that hipster, or?
No, that's just like what most of the world does. It's not hip or special. It's like what most of around the world does. Same with like, that's why I like.
Do you seek out like unique hats and like unique like?
Well, actually, maybe. I mean, I like vintage clothing stores for that reason, because it's just, I don't know what's going to be inside, and I know that it's just like very ethical and that it's just small.
But you're not a hipster. Uh-oh, you froze.
Because it's a meaningless term. What does it mean?
I don't know. It's like, what does being white mean? It can be defined so many ways, but everybody knows what a hipster is. Come on.
I'm always a supporter of small business over big business in every scenario. I'd rather support small because it's closer to a person doing a thing that they like or don't or care about.
So the answer is yes.
I guess so, but if that's what being a hipster is, then If that's not being a hipster, then yes, I'm 100% that. If it means you support small business instead of huge corporations, then yes, totally, I'm that thing.
When you go to a bar, do you drink like Pabst Blue Ribbon and stuff?
No. Well, I don't know what I drink at the bar. I drink
Sometimes.
No, I drink like huge like Budweiser and stuff. PBR is probably not from a small brewery.
I'm just teasing you. All right. So you got anything else you'd like to tell us about New Harvest or anything like that?
Yes, I would like to say.
Any questions right now? All right. So what would you like to say?
I would like to say that the thing that I'm most proud of at New Harvest is that people from all over the place seem to really care about it and want to contribute without like anyone asking them to do it. And so I guess I wanted to shout out this one new guy to our community named Quinn. He posted this video just being this fully formed video with like visuals and everything about how he thought that an interesting idea for cultured meat research would be to grow muscle cells on scaffolds made of fungal tissue, like mycoprotein tissue. And it was all this explanation. It was like highly scientific, and he posted it on our wall, and I was just so blown away that someone cared enough to do something like that. And in his video, he's like, I don't care if, don't credit me, just it would be cool to see someone do this. And so after that video was posted in our group, the researcher that we funded in London, Abby, they got in touch, and now she's going to like try out the thing that he posted. And so that's just the thing that I'm most proud of right now. And I'm proud of it because I had nothing to do with it.
All right. So if you look in the chat.
Oh, yes.
Somebody
chat.
posted a long, complicated question that I don't feel like reading.
How complex of tissues can you grow in culture now? Can you engineer beef muscle fiber in cultured meats and fat cell distribution? Right now, no one's trying to co-culture like different tissues together because it's really hard. So the idea is more like you would culture fat in one place and then culture muscle in another place and then just mix it together afterwards. But of course, that means you're stuck with like burger and sausage scenarios instead of pork belly and steak scenarios. So we're trying to get that kind of research funded because that kind of stuff is way too early for a company to ever do. And that's the goal of the researcher that we're funding, is to work on this kind of steak idea. But it's pretty far away, and I think it's possible because I don't see why it wouldn't be possible, but I don't know when that's going to happen. That's all.
Anybody else? Dave, you got anything you want to ask? No, you good?
So as a person who has organized a TEDx did your TEDx experience have a big impact on anything that happened afterwards, or not so much? And this is just more of a personal, like, is this a thing worth doing question than
I think TEDx was like one of my most important experiences, actually. And I had no expectations going into it. But I think the reason why was in Toronto, they were really, really professional about it. Yeah.
They do a good job. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they had like speaker training and like content coaches and stuff like that, which I don't want to tell you about because then it seems like my talk's not as good because it was like so coached, but it was very professional, and you can learn a lot from that in terms of how much preparation goes into an event like that. And one key thing that happened is after I came off stage, someone who was just hanging out in the green room was like, oh, my friend's holding this meat hackathon in New York. You should go to it. It's like a hackathon about meat. And I was like, okay, I'll go. So I just went just because this random person in the Toronto change room told me to go to New York. So I flew to New York, did this event. And at the event, I met this guy, and I told him that I was from Toronto. He's like, oh, you should meet my friend Connor. And that's how I met Connor and Pantea, and ultimately how I met you, Josiah, is because I went to this random thing after TEDx. And so it's probably not, TEDx is not why it happened, but for me it was. It probably could have happened anyway. But it kind of tapped me in. I was new to Toronto too, so it opened my world to a whole bunch of local people, which was really nice.
Okay. And then the other question that I'm required to ask anyone that I run into from Toronto is, do you know any of the guys from Rush?
From Rush? No, but we once saw one of the guys eating at are you from Toronto?
No.
Oh. Well, anyway, he was eating at this place. You could see him like through the fence. Yeah.
That must
I don't know. Yeah, well, I don't know who it was. It was like my husband told me. Oh, here come the sirens. Cool. Well, that was fun.
So does anybody else have anything? Otherwise, we're just going to finish up. No? Good? All right. It was super awesome having you, Isha.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
We have it all recorded, so we're going to throw it up online. And I'll give you a link, and you can share it with your friends. Otherwise, everybody else, we might have this next Monday. Otherwise, look forward to having it on Mondays fairly often, maybe every other week or every week. So come back and chat with us. Feel free to interact and say something. Good to see you, David Ishii. Glad you showed up. How's it going, man? Good? Can't hear me? You're frozen? All right.
Everyone's muted.
All right, everybody. Yeah, they can unmute themselves if they want to. All right.
It was really great to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Maureen.
All right, everybody. Thanks, and we'll see you all again soon.
Bye.